Let's talk about it. 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 On the field.
Hello, hello, hello. As you can see, my background is a little different today. I am in Canton, Ohio. I am at my niece's Darlene's house. And as you can see, the beautiful pictures of my sister and her children, my nieces and nephews. So I'm glad to be here today, and I'm so happy that we're coming with part two of parenting with uncommon courage. And I'm going to bring up first our visionary for the book. Hello, Miss Tiffany. How are you
Hey,
today?
Miss Vera. I am well. Thank you so much for having me again.
I am so happy that you're here again. And before I bring up others, I'm going to just share your background for a minute. Tiffany D. Bell is a nonprofit consultant, a coach, author, and speaker. Tiffany is not only the founder of Nonprofit CEO and co director of Success Women's Conference, which just ended and was awesome. You did an outstanding job. But she is also the founder of Uncommon Courage, a platform created to inspire and oh, I it just scrolled away. Inspire and equip women to find, embrace, and connect with their unique voice and purpose with confidence. So you're much more than that, but we have this as, and you're going to be sharing more about Tiffany D. Bell as we continue on today. And let me bring up, I'm going to now bring up Dr. Harris, and then we'll start the conversation. Hello, Dr. Harris.
Hello.
And how are you today?
I'm blessed.
That's awesome. Well, let me read a little bit about Dr. Harris. Dr. Harris, she says modern day superheroes are not the ones we familiarize in motion pictures, but rather the quintessential professionals gifted with a sharp sense of servant leadership, willing to show up greatly in the lives of those who need it most. Yielded to this profound ethic is the multifaceted advocate Dr. Josephine Harris. She is a psychotherapist, international licensed therapist, international best-selling author, four times best-seller selling author, in fact, international speaker, mental health blogger, professional certified empowerment life coach, domestic violence, sexual assault advocate, and certified mental health coach and advocate. She is the CEO and founder of Calming Minds LLC and Healthy Minds and Hearts blog. Dr. Harris's mantra is simply she is inherently committed to the emboldening of women, particularly military spices. Oh, all right, there military spouses, facilitating for them all an opportunity of hope, whether it is through transformational messages of professional and or personal growth. Dr. Harris was born to encourage, motivate, and empower women of all cultures. Well, we are so glad that you're here, and I'm excited that we're going to be talking about parenting with uncommon courage. And now, Dr. Gatlin, Dr. Gatlin, how are you?
I'm doing amazing. Hi.
I am so glad to see you. And I have to tell you, I did not pull up your bio. I'm sorry. So what I'm going to do is
Okay.
I'm going to give you a few minutes on the floor to tell us a little bit about you. Okay? So
Sure.
why don't
I
you
can
take a few minutes and do that now?
I sure will. I am Dr. Teresa Gatling. I'm a physical therapist by trade. I've been a therapist for 34 years. And for the last 30 years, I've been ministering with my husband. We have a church called Mount Olive Worship Center that we pastor here in McAllen, Texas. We have raised 4 boys and who are now adult men. And we have 3 grandchildren. So we're really excited about that. We do a lot of, well, I've written a book, obviously, Parenting with Uncommon Courage. But in addition, I have a workbook that is helping people build their family brand, especially for new mothers and new parents in general. And my husband and I do a lot of webinars and speaking to couples and couples relationships. And we've been doing that for many, many years. So we're excited. That's who I am.
Well, we are excited to have you, and thank you so much. And our next guest, last but not least, and she just popped out. Okay, she will be back. So, ladies, let's talk about parenting with uncommon courage. The first question I want to ask each of you is to share with us, why is this book so important to you? And I'm going to start with you, Tiffany, and then I'm going to just ask each of you to share, why is this book so important to you?
Well, for me, I have a few different angles that are important to the book. Is important to me from a few different angles. First of all, just being a young person, I was adopted, and so being adopted, of course, the beautiful thing about that is that you are chosen. You know what I'm saying? And I think that that makes you special. However, past my adoption, as a child, my biological mother, she ended up passing early, and maybe I think I was third, maybe fourth grade or so. And so my grandmother helped raise me for a season. She passed, and her daughter helped raise me for a season, and then she passed. And then I moved in with a cousin, and I lived with my cousin until I went to college. And so just kind of going from house to house to house to house to house, I had to kind of figure out all the ground rules. Again, I was still raised within my family. However, each house has different rules. And so I believe that, the saying that it takes a village to raise a child is definitely true, especially when I look at my story, my personal story, and seeing how many people are actually involved in helping to motivate, develop, mold my personality, help mold my value system. I think that when it comes to parenting, that you have to take all of that into consideration. It's just, and each child is different. Every personality, of the child is different. Their birth order, all of that has an effect on how they live and how they view life, right? And so I think, just as a child, recognizing how I got different. I just got mixed signals from each of the different houses that I went to. So, I didn't have to figure that out as an adult, especially once I began to parent. Now, once I began to parent myself, then I also realized just how important it really was to have stability. My children, I didn't want them to have issues personality wise. I didn't want them to have any issues, being able to emerge into society and become positive contributing members of our community. And so with that, I believe that, again, that a lot of what we see that's happening in society now really comes from the fact that a lot of people just didn't have a stable childhood. They didn't have the things that I grew up with, as far as just knowing that every day I would come home, there's going to be food on the table. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know that by 7 o'clock, we're going to eat dinner. We had a regular routine. I knew that every Sunday, we're going to go to church. Just those different things that really kind of help, again, create stability. And I believe that the stability is really important for a child. It creates, again, that's that greater sense of safety to where they can freely express themselves and discover, who they are and where they're heading, and just be able to mesh well, again, once they get up and they launch. And so my my two boys. I have a 27-year-old and I have a 19-year-old. And so both of them, of course, have had their own bumps in the on the along the way in life. But in general, I think that my fight to maintain a sense of stability within the home front for them has really gone a long way in helping them to become men of God, first of all, and then also positively contributing members of society. And so, again, I believe that all that happens based on what's happening within the home front itself.
Amen. Amen. I will comment after we get the feedback from everybody else. So, Dr. Gatlin, you want to share with us why this is so important to you?
Absolutely. I think as parents, there's so many different avenues, and people do things one way and another way. And our background, our experiences certainly feed into how we become parents. And so I think the fact that, excuse me, the fact that this book is a compilation of different ideas and different parenting styles, and it really is something that will give a basis, especially for new parents, not even new parents, just any parent can be able to read something in there that will feed to them, and it will really help them to say, oh yeah, there you go, I can pick that, I can choose this and take a little bit of this and that to be able to be a better parent all around. So I think that's one of the reasons I'm so excited about this book that we put together, that by amazing authors, just fantastic stories.
Yes, thank you so much. And I want to acknowledge Malia Clark. She is my granddaughter. And I am so happy that you're watching us today, Malia. And she says, I love you, Grandma. I love you too, sweetheart. And she also said, you got this. Thank you very much. And now Dr. Josephine Harris is here, but she also commented and said, yes, yes, yes. Awesome. Okay. Ashley, thank you for being here as well. And I'm going to do a brief bio on Ashley, and we're going to then ask her the question that I'm asking everyone. In a generation most exposed to the chains of mental health disparities, there is a voice of advocacy. It is in the likes of Ashley Robinson. Ashley is a compassionate leader, speaker, author, and advocate, led by a sincere passion to serve those burdened by the stigmas found in mental illness. Having overcome her own life struggle with mental health, she now longs to serve a generation seemingly drowning in its grips to recreate their perspective, gain the help they truly need, and to overcome as she did. To accompany a passion for mental health advocacy, Ashley is a public speaker bringing awareness to mental health struggles and to stop once and for all the stigma placed on those diagnosed with mental illness. She uses her experience of having struggled with depression, anxiety, PPD, PTSD, and suicidal ideation to free others and promote awareness. A proud leader in her community, Ashley has been involved in several volunteer based efforts ranging from feeding the homeless, promoting animal rescue adoption, and cleaning efforts for local beaches on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. Well, Ashley, I am so glad that you are here. And she popped out. Okay. I have this is gonna be great. This is gonna be great. Okay. So Ashley, after Dr. Josephine expressed, the question is
Yes,
why is
yeah.
parenting with that's okay. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay. All right. So we're going to ask Dr. Josephine to share why this book is so important to you.
Wow. Wow. this book really, I want to thank Tiffany for even giving me the opportunity to even be on this anthology with her. This book really opened up a lot of I would say this book is important to me because I am I've been through, my mother and father was divorced, so I've been they were dealing with co-parenting, and I am as well as dealing with co-parenting. So it is important for me to be a part of this book technology because I was dealing with a lot of living from one household to another, and I had to abide by different rules in of one house of my father, then one house of my mother, because they were sharing custody of me. So when I was coming up, I had to go to my father's house on the weekend for holidays, and I also had to doing weekdays spend with my mother. So now at the point as I became a parent, and I was a teen parent as well. So as I became a parent and I had my children, and then we was in the same boat where I had to share custody of my boys and I had to share custody of my girls. So they was in between two households, and we had to actually come together as parents to make sure that they get the love and support that they needed, because they will share custody. So it was like we was co-parenting from different households. Well, he have to fly in from Mississippi, and I had to fly in to Mississippi, or we was staying in Georgia during the time. So we had to really navigate around our schedule so that the kids can have that time with the different parents. So it was very difficult as being a co-parent, and now as an adult and me going through being a co-parent, and me and my husband also co-parenting. He co-parenting, I co-parenting. So now that we are a blended family, so that was really important to me, is like understanding the dynamic of both sides of the family, of both sides of the step parents, of both sides of the stepfather. So we actually had to really blend our family together, and we had to come together as parents, and setting down the ground rules for understanding co-parent and how important it is to not fight as dealing with co-parenting, because it really is a really struggle when you have to co-parent, even co-parenting teenagers. So that was a really, really dynamic for our family, is dealing with the different personality of parenting.
Awesome, awesome. Before I give my reason for wanting to be a part of this book, I want to acknowledge our audience. Hello, Dr. Jerry. We're so glad to see you here with us today. Thank you for being here. And then we have Brandy Thomas. She was supposed to be on, so she's gonna give us her feedback and input through this chat. We're so glad. And she said, yes, girl, co parenting peacefully instead of fighting. Absolutely. Absolutely. And then Ashley says, co parenting is very important. It's very important. So I guess one of our topics today is going to be co parenting. We let the spirit leave here. And so that is an important topic. And Constance, she says, good evening. Hello. We're glad you're here. We're so glad you're here. Now, one of the reasons that I got involved in this book is because having raised well, first of all, I grew up being ridiculed and made fun of and called all kinds of names. You're stupid, you're dumb, you're fat, you're ugly, you're nothing, you'll never be anything. And so hearing all those things, I got involved in this book because I do not want any child to ever feel like I felt when I heard those things as a child. And so if I can be instrumental in any way to help parents recognize how important their attitudes and behaviors towards their children is, then that's what I want to do. When you consider the second cause of death for 10-year-olds to 26-year-olds is suicide, parents have got to be more positively engaged in their children's lives. And so this is just a very important topic for me across the board, seeing how children, one of the things that I do as I'm pursuing my dreams is I drive Uber and Lyft. And one day I had four teenagers in my car. No, five, I'm sorry. Five teenagers in my car. Out of the five, only one of them had a decent relationship with their parent. Only one of them. And the issues are across the board. It's not any economic, social group or race. It is across the board. And that's why I was glad that Ashley was here, and our last group we had Cara here, because it is across the board. In that case, those five teenagers, one was African American male, African American female, a Hispanic female, a white male, and a biracial male. Out of the five, only one of them had a decent relationship with their parent. And that happened to be the African American male. And he said that his relationship with both his parents was exceptional. And so that, again, we're talking about co-parenting, we're talking about teenagers, and that whole process of co-parenting teenagers. And a lot of times they're coming into a home, and with co-parenting, I want you guys to kind of talk about how a lot of times with the co-parenting, there's that issue of these are my kids, so disciplining and all of those kinds of things can be an issue. So let's kind of talk about that. And well, before Constance, she says, come on now, parents must learn to be more supportive of their children. For me, struggling with childhood obesity, my parent was unable to be of support because she never knew what being over never was overweight. So she couldn't understand what her daughter was going through as an obese child because she had never experienced it. And so, Constant, I appreciate you giving us that feedback. I'm going to shut up and give you guys an opportunity to talk about this. So whoever wants to talk.
I go. Well, for me, with teenager and co-parenting is basically you have to understand, each parent have to understand that as co-parents and you're dealing with different children from both sides of the families, you have to realize that, because me and my husband are co-parents, and he had teenage children, and I had younger children during the time, but they was teenagers. I had both teenage and younger children, so we had to really lay down the foundation of the family dynamic. We had to put the ground rules with we had to put the ground rules of no favoritism. We had to put the ground rules of what discipline and what actions we should take and be consistent with it. We also had to lay the foundation of not letting each child play the other parent against the other parent. Because you have to understand that being co-parenting and being a bonus mom and bonus dad, sometimes the kids will play the parents against each other. So you have to really make sure that the parents are on the same page. And when I mean on the same page, you have to make sure that they understand each other rules and regulations, and set the foundation for the whole family, as well as set the foundation for the outside parents of the biological parents or the step parents. So the parents have to really come together and set that foundation. Though it's going to be very chaos in the whole family.
I hear you. And Monica, she says, so true. And of so important, and is so important for parents to be present. There are some parents that are presently absent, and others absently present. I like that. Presently absent, and others absently present. So they're there, but they're not there. And that's an issue, and it is of a concern. Thank you for that, Monica. All right. Tiffany, did you want to speak on what is being said?
So I think my perspective on parenting teens, again, my youngest son, he's in his senior year of high school now. And when I compare the differences on parenting him compared to my oldest son, their personalities are night and day. And again, like we had kind of like what Dr. Joe said a moment ago, we had foundational rules or boundaries in place for us as a family, but then we also realized that there needed to be flexibility in those rules based upon the personality of each child. So my oldest son, he needs people around. He is a people person. My youngest son, not so much. The way that we could discipline my oldest son would be like, okay, well, you just can't go hang out. Friends can't come over. And you're not going anywhere. Well, if I did that for Brandon, Brandon would be like, oh, I'm happy, no big deal. So for him, it's taking away entertainment pieces, you know what I'm saying? Or at times if we needed to spank, then we needed to spank, and I know not everybody agrees with spanking. I think that, spanking was a part of our routine, our discipline. We did spank our kids, but it was done in a very organized fashion. It wasn't, my grandmother growing up, she'd be like, go get a switch off the tree. I have to go outside. I have to get the switch. I have to make sure that it was, as a kid, I was like, I wanted to make sure it wasn't too thin, because if it's too thin, it's going to really burn. Okay, make sure it's not too heavy, because that might burn. That would hurt as well. Having to go pick out the right switch. There was none of that. My pastor, I remember him, just talking about when the proper way to discipline a child where spanking is concerned. And so at any rate, I realized that, again, when it comes to setting the ground rules, like children actually, like I said earlier, they crave stability. And part of that stability, it is having rules per se, regulations put in place around them, the same way God puts regulations around us, the law of the land. The reason why we have the law is really it's protection. It's designed in a way that's not necessarily supposed to stop you from living life, but it's supposed to help keep you within certain boundaries so that you can live your best life. A life that is safe, not just for yourself, but a life that, provides safety for other people that you share life with. And so, again, I think when it comes to raising teens, it is recognizing that, one, they do have a voice, that their opinion does matter. They may not agree, right, with whatever it is that you guys have in place, but I still think there needs to be a certain level of honor and respect shown to them by giving ear to what their concerns are. And even if you cannot necessarily relate, again, like Miss Constance Willard said earlier, you might not be able to relate. And again, life has just changed. We're in a different time period. Here the things that I face now in my 40s compared to what my kids faced when the things that I faced when I was 17, however many years ago that was, compared to what my kids face when they're 17. Times have changed. And again, even with times changing, I think as that means our parenting style has to shift as well with culture. Not saying that, again, that you throw caution to the wind and you let your kids do certain things, but my parents at age of 12 would never have thought about giving me a cell phone. Where now, at age 12, I'm perfectly okay with my grandkids having a cell phone, because we now have bomb threats. You know what I'm saying? There's so many things that are happening culturally that are just different now in the society that we live in. And so we have to kind of, as a parent, I think we have to shift some with culture. It doesn't change my value system. It doesn't change my morals. Those things are solid. Right. But, the way that I parent needs to adjust based upon the personality and the culture that we each live in. Needs to accurately reflect what's happening in society. So again, your child just knows how to engage. And they have, again, a sense of stability. It really goes a long way.
Amen. Now, you mentioned spanking. I do want to kind of back up and talk about that for a minute, because there are so many schools of thought on spanking. And I guess one of my questions, and I would like feedback from you other ladies. One of my concerns is a lot of times when we're doing that, it's advocating violence. Some proponents say that, the spanking is advocating being violent, and that's the way that you handle situations. Also, at what age do you no longer spank a child? And what ways do you do it? I know with me, I took issue with spanking my son. And someone told him, if your mom does not whip you, then she doesn't love you because there's a scripture in the Bible. Yes. So my
Wow.
son was like, you don't love me, mom. It's like, it's not, oh, are you kidding me? Are you
Yeah.
kidding me?
Wow.
Like,
Wow.
and I remember the first time I spanked him, and I said, "This hurts me more than it hurts you," and I really felt that way.
Oh
You
yeah,
really
yeah.
do. I
I
think you
really,
Yeah.
do. It
No,
is,
you know,
it does
again,
hurt.
I really do think that when it comes to spanking, I think that, when it comes to disciplining your child is not so much about, it doesn't mean that you're spanking them. It just means that, again, you're creating some boundaries around them, so that they can be taught, right? And so when it comes to spanking here in my household, this is what we do. We used to, they might have their hands on the chair. They would get 3 licks only on the butt, right? But they don't necessarily, not every child. So with Breon, my oldest son, he really could take 20 licks. He was hard. It didn't make a difference to him. Spanking was not effective. He just was like, you done, even at age 3, where my youngest son, tender heart, I can look at him hard and, he's going to tear up. You know what I'm saying? And so, again, I think when it comes to spanking, that again, all of that, any type of, whatever forms of discipline you take on, you have to figure out what is it that works best for that child. No physical abuse, none whatsoever. I don't believe that you should hit a child anywhere other than on the
In
butt
the
cheeks.
boat, but
Yeah.
Growing up for me, it'd be nothing to get like back slapped
back
across my
slap.
cheek.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
could
we
feel
all
the burn
did.
now. That thing would sting for eons. I do think that's abuse.
yes,
I don't, that to me is abusive. It's extremely, it's demeaning. And that again, I think you have to just approach that whole subject very sensitively.
yes,
And again, it's really about understanding what works and
And
what
what
doesn't work. There's some children that never need to get spanked at all. Like, they just have that natural, they just have a very compliant nature,
Mm-hmm.
yes.
but then there are others where just, they're just like, what you gonna do?
That's true. But what I'd like to add to that,
that is so true. That's so true. But with my kids, you look at them. With my girls, you look at them, they start crying.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
with my boys, you just say, you know what? I'm just gonna take this away. If you take their gadget away, they start crying. So it's a different dynamic. So it's really, don't get me wrong. When they were small, I did spank them because some of them really needed it. And sometimes, as you learn and you grow, and sometimes statistically, spanking and hitting kids, it does prevent them to understand that's violence. So they grow up understanding it's okay to do it, but you have to set the boundaries and the ground of doing it, because when, as a therapist, I see the difference between spanking and abusing.
Yes.
So there is a difference between spanking and abusing a child. Now, if you spanking a child, no, you shouldn't hit the child no more on the buttocks. But abuses like back hitting them, hitting them across the face, like hitting them that's abuse.
Or
So you
hitting them in the chest.
yes, yes. So you have to really, really know the difference between spanking and abuse. And most different cultures really don't think it's okay to slap a kid or to hit them in the chest or to hit them in the back, and that's culturally, but and statistically that's abuse.
Yes.
yeah, I would also add to that if you are engaging in spanking at all, if that's something way that you're going to discipline, is that you have to be very, very conscious
Mm-hmm.
not to do so in anger. Because
Yes.
I think
yes,
you should never, because then you may not respond
Mm-hmm.
with all the sensitivity that both Tiffany and Dr. Harris has spoken about, because you're angry. So you should never just turn off and slap your kid, or because you might do something bad. And when that has happened, and we did spank our kids when they were little, it was always, if I was very angry, It was, okay, you're going to your room,
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
which they didn't like because they knew if they had to go to their room, I
Yes.
was beyond being able to deal with them right then. I was
Yes.
beyond it. I wouldn't know what I might do to you. So you know what? You go
Go
into your
down.
room.
Yes.
But they understood at what point, what it would happen, what's going to
Mm-hmm.
happen. We mentioned boundaries. They
Yes.
knew, these are things you can do or not do. This is the consequence to this.
Yes.
If you do this, this will
Consequences.
Yes.
happen. So now if I'm
Yes.
angry, I might send you to your room for a little bit, but I'm always going to come back to you. And it
Yes.
was never a spanking without a conversation.
Yes.
So we
Yes.
talked about it.
Yes.
You know
Yes.
what's happening and why and what we're going to do. And yes, mama's still going to spank you.
I'll
We're not
tell you
leaving
guys
it at that.
a funny
Let
story. My mother-in-law, her style of disciplining her children, like if you got in trouble at 10 o'clock that morning, the rule was is that you would get your spanking at 7 o'clock. So the kids would always hope they go out throughout the day hoping that that Miss Gladiola, her name was Gladiola,
Yes.
Miss Gladiola, were always hopeful that she might actually forget.
Mhm.
They would go on, whatever would happen earlier that morning, she'd say whatever she wanted to say to them in the moment, and she would follow up with, you wait until 7 o'clock tonight, you're gonna get your spanking, and then it was over with. They would go on, have a wonderful day, because things were going well. Again, my husband, he told me, he's like, we would really hope, like, okay, she's forgotten about it. 6:59 hit,
you're
and she was
breaking
like,
up. Yes.
she'd come
All
back,
right.
and,
We
I
don't.
just
We
remember
can't
thinking that was
understand what
so
you're
funny.
saying because you're breaking up right now. Let me go
Oh,
to the audience and see what they're saying. Well, first of all, Dr. Nikki is in the house. Yes. Thank you for being here. Thank you. And Chandra, she says, hey, ladies, great topic. And, we're just kind of going with the flow. And, we prayed about this. So we know that whatever direction we're going, that is the direction we're supposed to be going in. And
That's
so
right.
she also says, yes, every kid has different personalities, and some need a little bit more than others. Absolutely. So being aware of your child and what works best. And even a part of that, and we talked about this before, I think in our first part one, understanding the love languages. Because
Yes.
if we understand
Mhm.
those love languages, then we can better work with our kids
Mm-hmm.
on the things that are needed for their betterment. And so
That's
this
right.
is a great topic. This is a great topic. Now
Yes.
we talk. Go ahead, Doctor
Yeah, I
Gatlin.
wanted to add one other thing to this before we move away from this topic, because it was something my mother used to do when we were younger, and I didn't like it as a kid. As a parent, I understood it a whole lot better. After a spanking, after a timeout, after a remove whatever gadget, whatever it might be, my mother always made it a point that she would come back to you and give you a hug and tell you how much she loved you.
I do
Now, I just got a
that.
whooping. I'm not wanting her to touch me. She would never let it
Right,
in there. It
Well,
was
I
always,
do
you need to know I
that.
love you. I really love you. And I didn't like
I
it as
used
a
to do
kid.
that.
I appreciate it as an adult though, because
yes,
even though you were disciplined,
Yes.
I absolutely understood that my mother,
Love.
she did love me. And it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't like she wasn't abusing me. We like we all said earlier in describing different ways, it was definitely done with love and in very specific
Mm-hmm.
parts. It was no just upside your head with anything. And
right,
so that's so important though, to make sure that they understand
Mm-hmm.
that there is still love. Yes, you're going to give me a hug. Yes, I'm going to give you a hug. You don't want to, but you need to know how much I love you. And that was, I think, a really big deal that parents
yes,
should do. And you're saying you did that, Dr. Harris,
Yeah,
as well.
I do. And
yes,
when I discipline them now and take their gadgets, I give them a hug after I take it.
Exactly.
So, and I
yes.
tell them I love them. And we never go throughout the day without telling them I love them. We're proud of you. We tell them waking up. We tell them when we get ready to go to bed. And they are adult kids and we still do
That's so important
it.
because
Yeah.
one of the questions that I ask parents, what is it that you wish you had been told as a child? And I'm telling you, I have gotten answers like, I wish I had been told I love you. Back in the day, parents would say, well, I feed you, you have a roof over your head, I'm showing you that I love you. Well, kids need to hear that, and they need
Yeah.
to hear it on a regular base. Let's hear what our audience is saying. Now, Chandra said, yes, in my home, we got both spanks and punishment, or one or the other. And then she also had said, well, Gwen said, y'all in my home, we got both spanks and punishment, one or the other. All right. And then Sonia also said, yes, know their love language is so important. Thanks for saying that. And even with couples understanding their love language as
Yes.
as parents, that is so important.
So
And it's
important.
something that we just dismiss. And
Yeah.
it shouldn't be. And then she says, Sandra also says, that's my husband. I'm like, nope, I'm still mad. But after I get over it, we do talk about it. And so again, don't, and even scripture, the scripture that just came to my mind, don't let the sun go down on your wrath.
Yes.
That's right.
That just came to my mind. And so we cannot be angry at our kids and not explain and not talk to them and
Yeah.
not continue to affirm how much we love them. That is so important. And then
Yeah,
Gwen says, my mom too, and helped me to know I did a bad thing. Hugs and got whipped on my butt. Okay.
I have to admit, there's some times when I don't necessarily feel like smiling. When I'm upset with my kids and they've done something and I feel like, hey, like, and it's different, we're not talking little kids, we're saying 19, they're many adults, little adults, so to
Little
speak.
adult.
What I'm saying? There are times when I'm definitely disappointed in the choices that they've made. And most times out of 10, especially my youngest, he will come back and he'll apologize. And I have to admit, there's some times when I'm just not feeling lovey-dovey, but, I will say to him, I accept your apology, but, I need some time for my emotions to come down. And I just, I'm being honest with him, saying it's not that I'm rejecting his apology. I accept it. I understand it. I know this is a reason for why you said this, why you decided that. It's just that right now, my emotions, I'm a woman. I'm still full.
Give me a little bit.
Yeah.
I just need to
Yeah.
go back in my bedroom. Let me finish close my door. And I just need to let go. But you're good. You're good. I just need time to where I become good again. Then I think that's just open and honest communication. And I also think that it's
Yes.
important that
Yeah.
you teach your kids, like, we just don't turn our emotions, male or females, our emotions just don't turn on and off,
No.
with at the drop of a dime. The apology is good, but my emotions need a little bit of time to catch up with the decision to accept the apology.
Absolutely.
And that's like,
Absolutely.
that's a
And it's
reflection of real
okay
life.
to tell your kids that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And I think it's important that we let our kids know how we are feeling, and being real about it and saying, now is not the time. I can't talk to you right now because I'm angry. So I need to put it on the back burner, but we're going to come back to it. That's very important. Wendy
Yeah.
says, hello, beautiful ladies. Hi, Wendy. We're so glad you're here. And then we also have Sandra. She says, let me get the full thing. She says, yes, all day, love all day long. I love you. My boys are 10 and 8 and say they love each other every day at various times. That is so important
That's
because
good.
life
That's
that
so
is
important.
excellent. It is excellent. I know my grandkids, they walk around the house saying, I love you, I love you, I love you. And
Yes, and
that is
whatever
so,
you want, baby, I'll give you the world.
Yeah.
yes.
Yes.
Yes,
And let
yes.
me tell you,
This
my
one
my
day,
FaceTime
my
me.
5-year-old called. Yes, and let me tell you, my 5-year-old called me one day, or he FaceTimed me, and after we got off the phone, he called right back, and I was like, "What's up?" He said, "Oh, Grandma, I forgot to tell you I love you." I was like, "Oh."
Oh.
He called back just to tell me that.
Yeah.
That was so touching.
Mm-hmm.
And then
That's so
Gwen, she
sweet.
says that I know. I was like, that was so special. And Gwen, she says, my mom was the disciplinary more. My dad only when it really bad, when it was really bad, or with the boys. She also says, Mommy, my mama didn't play, but she showed so much love and would make us feel better, but she didn't let us slide. And you can discipline, it's a balance.
Right.
Like
Yes.
Tiffany is
It
saying,
is.
it's a balance.
Mm-hmm.
And then Wendy, she says, that's wonderful that they display so much love for one another. And she's talking about the two brothers. That is so important. And then Gwen, she says, I dislike when she remembers she spanked for another thing you did with the new thing. You're getting
Well,
spanked. Well,
that did happen.
yes. That is okay. And then Chandra, she says, we are doing something right, ladies, creating a new way of loving and disciplining our kids. Clap for yourselves. Clap, ladies, clap. Yes, absolutely. And I think this is important because so many parents, they're not there yet. They don't understand the importance of speaking love to your kids. They're not understanding that we have to treat each child differently because they are different. They're unique individuals that must be handled in different ways.
That's it.
Yes.
Yes. Well, I have a topic I wanted to talk about. I had a conversation with my mother earlier today. We were riding. She went with me on I had to see some patients. It was like 2 hours away. And so she went with me, and my niece and nephews are now teenagers.
Okay.
And I said, oh, well, Mom, have they started with this whole dating thing yet? Because one's 17, the other one's 15. And talking to my brother about dating. I'm so sorry. Like I've got a frog in my throat. And I said, and of course, brought up all kinds of conversations. Dating, when do you start? Do you go out with them? Do you get to pick them up? Can they stay at the house? And we had these conversations, and she didn't want to talk about it though.
She didn't want to talk about
She
it.
didn't want to
You
talk
want to
about
talk about it?
it because with those two, they're kind of like that. She kind of helped raise them a lot. She's not with them anymore because she's down here in Texas, and so she doesn't want. She'll get older. She's in her 80s, and she's much softer than she used to be.
Okay.
So
So
she doesn't want to hear about things that might make them uncomfortable. So
okay.
I said, well, Mom, at some point, I mean, my nephew is already going to be a senior. I'm kind of surprised that we're not having more conversation already about wanting to date and what that entails. He's just getting his driver's license already, and dating. Can they come over? Can I go out with them? Can they come to my house? How long do they stay? Can they spend the night? What types of things? And those are the things. I mean, I've already raised my kids. We had very strict rules, and those
Yes.
rules started from when they were very, very, very young, 1, 2, 3 years old. I mean, we were talking about it. They knew that there would be no dating until they were 16. That was just we arbitrarily came up with that number. I like that age. We thought, at this point, we have developed a rapport. We've developed some trust between each other. You've had some opportunity to prove yourself that you can be trustworthy. So 16 seemed like a good idea, and there were certain time frames, and I was that interfering parent. You didn't just go out. I needed to know names. I needed to know where you
Me.
Yes.
live.
That's
I needed
me.
to know the parent's name. I needed to know, okay,
That's
if
me.
because they were
Yes.
boys. I mean,
Yes.
I knew what they were driving because they were usually doing the driving. But I also insisted, which kind of hurt me a little bit, but I insisted, since they were boys, you need to go and pick the girl up, meet the parent. I mean,
Yes.
you already met them, doesn't matter. You go in and you speak, you say hello,
Yep.
you say good evening, and you do not text nobody to meet me outside.
Nope.
None of that. Ring the doorbell, go to inside. Those were rules. They knew that.
Yes.
And they followed it. And I was like,
Yes.
sometimes I didn't get to meet the little girl until after, but I at least knew her name and I knew where
Yes.
she lived and I knew who her parents were.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
You
think
couldn't
that
go
is so
unless I knew
important.
that.
Yes. That is so important.
That's important.
The other night I picked up two teenagers, high school students, from their girlfriend's house. And it was like 2 o'clock in the morning. Okay. Yes. Teenagers. It was about 2 in the morning. And we had a conversation and they were saying, yeah, we just left our girlfriend's house and we're going over our friend's house that has a guest house and we're going to stay there, instead of going home because it was late and I guess their friend was allowing them. But the thing that I was impressed about was the fact that, okay, so you visited with these girls, but you knew you had to go home. And I thought, okay, that was interesting to me. Now I realized that times have changed, and of course my son is grown, but I remember saying to him, that, he could bring, because he stayed with me until it was like 24. But even with that, I said to him when he'd have girlfriends over and what have you, you are so welcome to be here to visit, but you cannot stay,
Yes.
Be-
Yes.
and regardless of your age, I'm not gonna
Yes.
do that,
Yes.
Well, he got kind of, he was, I guess, smelling himself, as they say,
Mm-hmm.
and did it like a couple times. Like I'd go to bed and he'd tell them, "Oh, it's okay, you can stay." Well, he did that one too many times, and he had to go because he wasn't obeying the rules.
Yes.
He
That's
wasn't
right.
That's right.
seeing me do that, and so it's like if you're not going to obey the rules, you gotta go. You
Yes.
know.
Yeah. And I'm the same way because I have I have both girls and boys.
Yeah.
So with the girls, they dated at 16. I met their parents. We sat down and we all sat down and I explained to them like no spending the night out. You have a curfew and you know what time to come in. Don't come in don't come if you have a curfew at 10 o'clock, don't come in 10:01. Because you know what time your curfew is. If you want to see a movie, you have to see a movie early, 6 o'clock. And you know you're in the house by 10 o'clock. Just like with the boys, everybody had the same curfew. But my kids, they humbleness. They don't like a lot of people being around, so they won't ask. They don't spend the night over. They won't spend the night out. They'll say, "Well, we don't." They don't spend the night out, so that's how they is. But they will bring girls or they will bring the boys to the house, but they don't go no further than a family room. And that's the bottom line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm pretty open, and we have a good relationship. We have a good relationship, and we have 8 kids. We have a good relationship, and all us we open with our kids, and we have a good relationship. And they call us for advice, and we give them advice, and that's our dynamic because we are a blended family.
Yeah.
Yes.
We had the
Let me
same
respond to a
rules
couple.
too.
Yes, Lenora. Hi, Lenora. Thank you for being here. And then Constance, she says, no shacking under my roof. Okay.
Speak
I
it.
know that's right. I know that's right. Speak it, she says. Yes. So, Dr. Gatlin, you were going to say something else before I acknowledged. Oh,
Yeah.
wait a
Well,
minute. We got another comment. She says, I would tell them when a girl says no, no matter how far you have gone, please
Yes,
stop. I would
yes,
tell them that even to my nephews, because that could be a real problem.
that is
Absolutely.
true.
it is.
That
So
is
I
true.
think to me, what I hear and what she just said, and really what all of you all have said, like it's really a matter of respect.
Yes,
Yeah.
Like, it's just a
Respect.
matter of respect.
yes,
Of observing the house rules, the family rules. It's
yeah,
just honoring the people. It's just honoring your parents. It's just
yes,
it's
Honor your parents.
what Gwen is talking
Absolutely.
about is honoring her wishes.
yeah,
So I think
Yes.
respect is the bottom line when it comes to
Yes.
dating. So you're
yes,
either respecting you want to show honor and respect to the person that you're dating. You also want to show honor and respect to her parents or, his parents, just depending, but
yes,
it's
Right.
really
Yes.
just about respect, honestly.
yes,
It
And
is
again,
about respect.
honor and
Absolutely.
respect, those things play into, again, those really become boundaries of protection, really, for you. You want things to go well with you. You honor the people, the you honor the authority that's been put in place. You may not necessarily agree with the
Yeah.
person's decision, but you still
Mm-hmm.
want to honor the authority that they have as parent, or as a woman
Absolutely.
that I have over my body. However, it's really kind of really boils down, it's honor and respect. And out of that,
Right.
when you show honor, respect, I believe that good things happen.
Yes, but
That's correct.
there are some parents that they're okay with that.
Yes,
Yes.
there
Yes,
are some
they
parents.
are okay.
That's
That's
okay.
not happening in the Bell
That's
household,
not
mind you.
me.
Nor is it mine.
Not,
But I
not in
also,
the Harris house.
yeah, I can't judge how any of you all would run your family, run your
Yeah.
household. Just know it ain't gonna happen over here in the Bell.
I
It's
Any
know
not
of you
that's
happening in the
walking in
right.
the,
Harris house.
I know
4710
that's
Washington
right.
Avenue, this is
We're
this is
over
the
here,
boundary.
not
I know
these
that's right.
courthouses.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely, absolutely. Well, you know what? This hour has really kind of gone by fast. We
Yeah,
have
it had.
we have 4 minutes. And if the audience, if you have anything you want to share, please do so now. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to ask each of you to kind of just let's capsulize what we've talked about, do an overview and whatever advice that you can give based on the topics that we've talked about today. Then I'm going to give each of you the floor to do that. And I'm going to start with our visionary, Miss Tiffany D. Bell.
Well, I think that if I had to say anything to any parent that's out there, I would say that the respect that I talked about earlier, that it goes both ways, especially as your child gets older. We've talked really more so today's conversation in my mind really kind of pertains to, children that are 13 and above, right? And so, as the child is small, little kids, you control them, right? But as they move into their teenage years, is really about managing them. And then, of course, as they get into adult years, is really like you're prepping them to launch. And then once they launch, it's really kind of up to them as to what choices that they're going to follow. But I do think that in general, no matter where you're at in that frame of the different walks of life, that you want to make sure that, there's equal honor and respect. So if you sow honor, I believe you receive honor back. And so children, you can maintain the heart of a child, I believe, by the way that you treat them, is in making sure that they know that they're loved, right? And that, how do they know that they're loved? It's not a feeling; it is the way that you treat them. And so I think I said last time I was here. In my mind, I get to hold the heart of what God has given me is their heart, and I get to hold it in their hand. So how I steward their hearts will have a tremendous effect on how they grow up into adulthood. Right. When God gives me their heart, I, take that responsibility seriously because I get to point their heart in the direction that I believe that it should go. Again, that's just based upon the direction, the vision that God has given me as a parent. And again, it does take a village to raise a child. So, you want to keep an open heart,
Yes, it
and you want to
does.
keep an open ear. One, you're open to hear what they have to say, but then also you're keeping an open ear and an open heart to the people that are around you. Because again, perspective is very important. And so, though you may feel very strongly about something in your heart, I do believe that it's really important. Keep an open heart, keep an open mind, hear what's being said around you, so that again, you can receive additional perspective, because you just never know, what direction that you may, the Lord may be wanting to lead you in when it comes to raising your child. But just remember, the honor and respect goes both ways.
Amen. Amen. Okay. So Jane, she says, indeed, indeed. Thank you, Jane, for being here. All right, Dr. Gatlin.
Yes. What I would say again, kind of like what Tiffany said about respect. It's so important that we show respect to our children. But in order for that to happen, as parents, we've got to start those conversations way earlier than a lot of parents seem to do so. The conversations about respect, the conversations about choices and trust from when they're very, very young. and giving them the opportunity when they're a 2-year-old to choose a red shirt versus a blue shirt. That's a choice. Asking them to pick up their toys and expecting them to do it. And because that begins that level of trust at a very, very early age, so that when we get to these teen years, that can be so challenging, that we have that relationship, that we've developed the rapport that Dr. Harris mentioned she has with all of her kids. I had with all of my children. It's a deep conversation that they feel that they can come to you once they're even adults and still ask for advice, and just want your opinion about things because you've developed the relationship. But it takes time. You can't start that at 15 and expect to have them, all into you and trusting everything when you have never really talked to them about anything up until that point. So I would just say show respect, show love, listen, because they have things to say too.
That is such sound advice. And then again, you cannot wait until a child is in middle school or high school to start having those kinds of conversations. It starts at a very early age. That's how you develop the trust that you need in order for your kids to open up and share and tell you the things that they need to tell you. And so very sound. But both of you have said very sound advice. Very sound advice. Last but not least, Dr. Josephine.
With me as a blended family, and I had smaller kids and he had smaller kids with me, I would tell you guys to encourage your kids, speak encouraging words, tell your kids that you love them, you care about them. Say I love you in the morning, say I love you before they go to bed, even pray with them, give them some kind of encouragement so they can have the acceptance of when they go out, they can have the boldness of I am special, I am loved. Just give them that unique future so that they can be appreciated when they get older.
Amen. Amen. Well, ladies, this has been great. This has been awesome. And I do hope and pray that this broadcast have given you parents some nuggets, some advice, some guidance, some confirmation that you are on the right track and doing the right things. And so we want to thank you guys for being here. We got to do this again. Okay. Are you guys in for that?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
We got to do it again. Well, listen, thank you so much. And I want to thank our listening audience for being here. And we do have another meeting that we've got to go to, but I would love to have been able to spend a little more time afterwards talking to each of you, but we'll have to connect after the show. And
let's do it.
Okay, we have one more comment. It says, that's a key word to all our children. I love you. That's the key word to all our children. I love you. Telling them that. Well, listen, listening audience, thanks again for being here. And we look forward to seeing you again next week. Now, we're going to be doing some reruns starting the third week in December. But I will be live next week. So I'm looking forward to seeing you all. God bless and make it a great week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
The Vera Thomas Show. Let's talk about it. 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 Let's talk